Hey there! Welcome back to part 3 of my videos about comparing the classic 1981 tabletop games Pac-Man and Puckman. One from Coleco, one from Tomy, one from North America, one from Japan. In the first episode, we took a look at how these games play in sound. If you haven't seen that one yet, you can check it out. I'll put a link up here. In the second video, we took the machines apart. We looked at the circuit boards, looked at what's inside of them, looked at what makes them tick. If you haven't seen that one yet, here's a link to that. Alright, so in this video, I am going to compare them on 11 criteria that I came up with to see which one I like the best. Alright, let's get started. The first criteria is how do they compare to the arcade game? Well, if you look at the Coleco one, looks a lot more like the arcade game. The Pac-Man, it's not shaped the same, the screen's a different orientation, and the screen layout is different, whereas the Coleco one, the screen layout's much the same. The general shape is very reminiscent of an arcade game, so I guess this one has to go to Pac-Man. This brings us to our second criteria, which is the screen. And as I mentioned, the Coleco machine has a screen that is very reminiscent of the arcade. The Puckman, the screen is a different orientation. There's 2 tunnels on each side. So this one is going to go to the Coleco one. And that brings us to our third criteria, which is replayability. Now the Coleco Pac-Man has 3 different modes you can play and 2 skill levels. You can play 2 players, you can play traditional Pac-Man, you can play a slightly different version of Pac-Man. The Tomy Puckman game has 1 mode, 1 player. There's 2 skill levels, but still it's just 1 mode, 1 player. So I have to give this one to the Coleco because it's just got a wider variety of different versions you can play. The next 2 criteria that we're going to look at have to do with the overall look of the machines. The fourth criteria is the art on the machines. The Coleco has stickers and pictures on the joystick area, on top of the machine, on the sides of the machine, on the marquee, and even around the screen. Whereas Pac-Man has 1 sticker just above the screen. So this definitely has to go to Coleco's Pac-Man. And the 5th criteria we're going to look at is the case design. Now, as I've stated before, the Pac-Man is very reminiscent of the original arcade game, whereas the Puckman machine is a round yellow disc. But I actually have to give the case design to the Puckman game, simply for the fact that the round yellow disc is very reminiscent of Pac-Man himself. It's unique. It's unique to this game and this game alone. It wouldn't look as good if it were Space Invaders or something like that. So, yeah, this round goes to Pac-Man. So the next 5 criteria we're going to look at has to do with the gameplay of the machines. So the 6th criteria is the comfort of playing. Now the Pac-Man has the traditional joysticks, as many arcade games have, whereas Puckman has the 4-way controller, which is not quite as traditional, but not unheard of. I think I have to give this one to the Coleco Pac-Man with its joysticks. So the seventh criteria we're going to look at is the sound you hear when you play. This was an easy one. It definitely goes to Puckman, just because the sound on the Pac-Man machine is a little annoying. It's loud, it's tinny and shrill, and there is no volume control. So the eighth thing we're going to look at is the controls. And this goes back to the four-way control versus the joystick. The four-way control is not nearly as nice as a D-pad. If this was an actual D-pad that you could just slide your fingers across, it might have stood a chance, but the traditional joystick wins on this one. And the ninth thing we're going to look at is the difficulty of play. Now this one I have to give to PacMan, just because it's a more relaxed game to play. I don't know if it's because the screen is smaller, there's less dots, there's less ghosts chasing you, but it's just more relaxed to play. And the 10th thing we're going to look at is the look of the gameplay. And I have to give this to the one that's more reminiscent of the original arcade game, the Coleco. Just because the screen is more like the arcade than the Puckman, so it looks better. And the 11th and final criteria is which one of these do I like the best? Now I thought about this with the Coleco one. I owned this when I was a child, not this machine, but I had Pac-Man. And Puckman I had never even heard of. I had never seen one, I had never heard of one. As a matter of fact, I was completely unaware of them until I picked this one up. So I actually have to give this to Puckman, just because I find it a much more unique machine to own. It's also just a more unique machine. I mean, with the Pac-Man, there are other Coleco games that have the same design, different games. There's like Frogger, there's Ms. Pac-Man. They look similar, the stickers are different, but they're not as unique. So I'm going to choose Puckman for this one. And the winner is, by a score of 7-4, Pac-Man. Actually, I'm very pleased to have both of these machines. I'm pleased to have Pac-Man because, as I said, I owned one as a kid. So it very much brings back a great feeling of nostalgia. I remember playing it all over our house, usually as far away from anybody else as I could so they couldn't hear it. I also remember playing it in the car, having to tape a piece of cardboard over the back grille to try to make it a little quieter so I wouldn't annoy my dad while he was driving. Now, Puckman I like because, well, it's something, like I said, I haven't seen before. So I've been able to learn something about some of the home game market that I didn't know about when I was a kid. So, yeah, I like having both of these. All right, so that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this look at these classic 1981 tabletop video games. And thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. And don't forget to leave a comment below. If you didn't enjoy this, you can leave an unhappy, upside down thumbs up. See you next time.